In question number 1, we are asked that in a PhD thesis, which one is the correct sequence for showing the scheme of chapterization? So what we are being asked is that in a PhD thesis, what is the correct order in which the chapter should be structured? So there are 3 ways of answering this question. The first one is that you should be familiar with how a thesis or a research dissertation is structured and what are the main components and what aspects come into which part of the document. So if you can pause this video and take a look at the different parts of a thesis and what are the components of each of these parts in the list that is given on the screen, you'll be able to answer this question easily. The second approach would be to look at the typical research cycle or the steps that are involved in a research project and see if you can correlate the steps that are given in the answer choices with the steps of the research process, because logically whatever are the steps, the major components of a research process, even the thesis should also correlate to those steps. Therefore, look at the answer choices, look at the diagram, the colorful diagram that is given on the right side of the screen and see if you can find the right answer. The third approach is to look at all the options that are given in the answer choices and see which one has the most logical flow. And by either of these 3 approaches, we will come to the same conclusion that answer choice 3 is the correct answer for this question. In question 2, we are asked which of the following is not the critical feature of qualitative research. To be able to answer this question, you need to have a fair understanding of the term qualitative research. So you can pause this video and go through the text that is given on the screen below and specifically focus on the sentences that are highlighted in red. Now coming back to the question, if we go through the statements, we see that statement 1 says actual settings are the direct source of data. Now one of the lines that is highlighted in red says the researcher physically goes to the people or setting or site. Therefore, this is a critical feature and that can be eliminated. Now statement 2 says data takes the form of words or pictures. Again, there is a sentence which is highlighted which says that words rather than numerical data are used. Therefore, this is also a critical feature of qualitative research. Statement 4 says researcher becomes immersed in the situation present or past related to the phenomena. Now the last sentence that is highlighted in red says that it gives the researcher the opportunity to put themselves in another person's shoes and to understand the subjective experiences of the participant, which is nothing but getting immersed in the situation. Therefore, statement 4 is also a critical feature. Therefore, the only feature which is not critical in the context of qualitative research is statement 3, which says seeking to establish relationship between measured social facts, because this is more connected with quantitative research. Therefore, we can select option 3 as the correct answer here. In question number 3, we are asked a detailed description of the methodology of research is required in which of the 4 choices. Now, if we look at how a thesis or a research dissertation is drafted, it has 3 main parts: the preliminary pages, the text and the supplementary pages, and a detailed description of the methodology is very much a part of the main narrative or the body. Therefore, the correct answer here is option 1, that is thesis or dissertation. In question number 4, we are asked research ethics has a direct connection more often with which stages of research. Now, ethics are the moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conduct of an activity. So what can be an ethical issue with research? An ethical issue with research can be when at the stage where you are obtaining the results of the research, you are either manipulating the data, fudging the data, or misrepresenting the facts to make the findings of the research more favorable to your cause. That is, if a researcher has spent a lot of time in researching a subject and he is expecting a particular outcome, he might be tempted to fudge the data or misrepresent the outcomes to make it more favorable and show that he has indeed arrived at the conclusion that he was hoping for. Therefore, the stage of reporting the research findings is where there is a scope for ethical issues. And if you look at the other answer choices, defining and delimiting the scope of research, defining the population and deciding the sampling technique for research, or deciding about the statistical techniques and data analysis, that are options 1, 3 and 4, are a fundamental part of the research process, where you are defining the scope or deciding what tools you'll be using for analyzing the data. So for these are not cases where you have ethical issues. So the only option here is statement 2, which is problem formulation and reporting of research findings. So the reporting of research findings is where there is a maximum scope for ethical issues, and the answer choice 2 is the correct answer. Questions 5 to 10 are based on a passage that is given in the question paper, and question 5 asks us, what is not a consistent concern across the two organizational contexts? Now, if we look at the initial part of the passage itself, there is a particular sentence which says that company longevity does not represent a consistent concern across the two organizational contexts. So there is a direct answer to this question, which is company longevity, which is option 4. In question number 6, we are asked, what will be sufficient for an independent production company to be successful? If you look at the highlighted part of the paragraph that is pasted in the screen below, you'll see that there is a sentence which says, by contrast with the independent production company of this case, each new film which is expected to generate financial returns for the principals is sufficient for the company to be successful, because any subsequent new film involving the firm's participants will be produced by a different independent company. Therefore, the correct answer here is the financial returns for each new film. Therefore, the answer choice here is option 2. In question number 7, we are asked, what does an advanced technology company expect from the learning experience of its participants? Now here, if you look at the paragraph that is pasted below, and specifically the sentence that is highlighted in yellow, it says that benefit from their increased experience on the next project is something that advanced technology companies expect from the learning experience. Therefore, the answer choice here is option 1. Question number 8 asks us, what is not the expectation of an independent production company in the case of its participants? Now, if you look at the highlighted part of the paragraph below, it says that the same company has little or no expectation of retaining such participants and hence benefiting from their increased experience in the next projects. So it says that an independent production company is not expecting to retain the participants of the project, therefore it does not benefit from their increased experience in the next project. Therefore, the correct answer choice here is option 2, which is retention for the next project. Question number 9 asks us, why do film production houses value experience highly? Now, the highlighted part of the paragraph below says that there is negligible slack time or margin for learning through trial and error. And it says that film production houses have such short time horizons, which essentially means the same thing. That is, there is not much of a slack time, or there is no margin for learning through trial and error, and that is because of the relatively short time horizons. Therefore, the correct answer choice here is option 3, which is because of short time horizons. In question number 10, we are asked, according to the author, what has been the focus of the film business? Now, if you look at the part of the paragraph that is pasted on the screen below, it says that mentoring plays an important role. True, the film business focuses heavily on exploitation over exploration, yet the success of the industry as a whole is critically dependent upon learning and exploration over time. But here, the author is saying that at this point in time, the film business focuses heavily on exploitation over exploration. Therefore, the correct answer here is option choice 3. In question number 11, we are asked, internal and external factors that affect message reception by students in the classroom are referred to as what? Now, an analogy that we can use here is when we are listening to an FM radio. then there is the signal that is coming through, which is essentially the song or the audio or the conversation that we wish to hear. Whereas there is also a lot of background noise that can be possible, which disturbs us or which acts as a barrier for us to actually hear what we want to hear. Therefore, the signal is essentially the message that we want people to hear or what people want to hear, and the noise are all the external or internal factors that are preventing the message from being heard. Therefore, here the correct answer is choice 4, which is noise, because noise is what prevents the message from being received by the students. In question 12, we are asked, a teacher in a classroom has immediate control over which factors? To answer this question, we can evaluate all the statements and eliminate those statements which have one or two factors over which the teacher has no control. Now, statement 2 says the audience, the noise and the reception. Now, the teacher does not have a control over the audience. Similarly, noise is something that is external or maybe even internal to the students. Therefore, the teacher does not have any control over noise as well. And the reception is something which depends on a lot of factors that the teacher cannot control. Therefore, we can eliminate statement 2. Similarly, statement 3 says the feedback, the technology and the audience experience. While the teacher may have some control over the technology that is being used, the teacher does not have any control over the feedback. The teacher might think the lesson went excellently, whereas the students might have a different feedback that the teacher could have done a better job. Therefore, feedback is not something that the teacher has control over. So we can eliminate answer choice 3 as well. And in statement 4, it says the communication channel, other communicators and external factors. Now, communication channel is something that the teacher can control. However, other communicators and external factors are things beyond the control of the teacher. Therefore, 4 also can be eliminated, which leaves us with choice 1, which says the self, which is the teacher himself, and the selected methods of communication and the message. So these are attributes which the teacher has immediate control over. Therefore, the correct answer choice here is option 1. Question number 13 asks us, what do communicated words carry in a classroom situation? Now, the correct answer as per the official answer key is option 4, which is power, structure and tradition. However, you can always argue that communicated words can carry any of the attributes mentioned in the other answer choices. They can be inspiring, they can generate controversy, they can lead to introspection, they can be diversionary, they can be critical, irrational, insipid, or they might not be accepted by the students, which means that even non-acceptance might be an attribute. So there is no specific reason or rationale as to why power, structure and tradition have to be the only attributes that are carried by the communicated words in a classroom situation. There is an old study which has been published by a person called James McCroskey, which talks about the connection between power and communication and specifically in a classroom setting. And he says that power always exists with the teacher in a classroom. However, this looks like a pretty outdated study, and it is applicable only to a few given scenario, and it might not be universally applicable. Therefore, the answer choice remains 4. However, it can be questioned. In question number 14, we are asked that as a good classroom communicator, which of the attributes are you supposed to know? Now, if you go to a website like TED Talks and hear speeches by people from different backgrounds, you'll find that the one common attribute for an effective conversation or an effective speech seems to be that the speaker knows where to pause, where to slow down, or where to speed up. The conversational speech is actually a series of words which are punctuated by pauses, by hesitation, and also by interruptions from the participants in the conversation. Therefore, the art of pausing a sentence or giving gaps in the way things are being communicated is something which increases the efficiency of the communication. It helps the audiences have the time to actually understand and assimilate the message that is being passed on. Therefore, a good classroom communicator needs to know the art of pauses. So the answer choice 3, artful pauses, is the correct answer here. In question number 15, we are asked to figure out the components of non-verbal communication in a classroom from among the following. Now, if we look at all the given choices, we see that option 4 has the most number of attributes of non-verbal communication. You can pause the video and take a look at the colorful graphic that is on the right side of the screen, which shows all the different types of non-verbal communication, which includes facial expression. Similarly, the concept of personal space is related to where the person who is communicating, i.e. the communicator, is standing in relation to you while conveying the message. For example, standing really close might be that the person is standing in your intimate space. Then there is a concept of personal space, then social space and public space. So the distance between the communicator and the message recipient is a factor in studying what personal space is all about. Kinesics is the study of the way in which certain body movements and gestures serve as a form of non-verbal communication. Therefore, kinesics is also something which we need to factor in. Therefore, the answer choice 4 is the correct answer here. In question number 16, we are asked which of the following are the basic factors of effective listening. Now, if we consider the statements and the factors which are mentioned in each of the statements, we can evaluate which one of them are applicable, and any statement which has an irrelevant or non-applicable factor can be eliminated. Statement 1 says opinionation, stare and glare and interruptions. These are not factors which are attributed to effective listening. So statement 1 can be eliminated straight away. Aggressive questioning, continuous cues and frequent movement are probably a display of hostility or disinterest and not effective listening. So this statement also can be eliminated. Me tooism, glancing sideways and offering advice are all interruptions. Therefore, these are also not factors of effective listening. So this also can be eliminated, which leaves us with choice 4, which is the correct answer. So acknowledgement of thought, reflection and asking open-ended questions which are relevant to whatever is being taught are actually attributes and factors of effective listening. Therefore, the correct answer here is 4. In question number 17, we are told that when a particular code is applied to the word hospitals, it becomes transformed into the set of alphabets which is given right next to it. And we are asked to apply the same code to the word biologicals to see what does it get transformed into. So if we write down the word hospitals in a vertical manner and we give a number for each of the alphabets, we see that it has been converted into the set of alphabets given right next to it by writing down the alphabets in a specific order. It is 1, then there is a gap, then there is 2, then there is a gap, then there is 3, 4, gap, 5. And then the rest of the alphabets are written in the reverse order. There is 6, then 7, 8 and 9, which is plugged into the gaps between the alphabets which were written earlier. So if we were to apply the same logic to the word biologicals, we will see that the first alphabet would be the same alphabet as what biological begins with, which is B. The second alphabet would be the 11th alphabet, which is S. And then there is a second alphabet which is I, then the 10th alphabet, then the third alphabet. Therefore, we can quickly identify that the sequence of alphabets has to be B, S, I, L, O, A. So we can shortlist the answer 4 as the correct answer for this question without having to complete the entire process, and thus we can save some time. In question number 18, we are given a series of numbers which starts from 1 and then goes all the way up to 41, and we are asked to identify the next term which comes at the end of the series. So if we write down the given numbers and we see what is the difference between each number and the subsequent number, we see that it is actually a multiple of 4. That is, the difference between 1 and 5 is 4, then the difference between 5 and 13 is 8. Therefore, the difference between 41 and the next number which should come should be 20. Therefore, the correct answer here is choice 3, which is 61. In question number 19, we are told that at present a mother is 3 times older than her son, and after 5 years the sum of their ages will be 70 years. So what will be the age of the mother after 10 years? So if we let the son's age be x at this point, then the mom's age will be 3x because she is 3 times older than her son. If we add 5 years to both their ages to factor in what will be their age after 5 years, then it will be x plus 5 and 3x plus 5. So the sum of their ages after 5 years will be 70 years, which means x plus 5 plus 3x plus 5 is equal to 70 years. If we solve for x, we'll see that 4x is equal to 60 and x is equal to 15. Therefore, the age of the son at this point is 15 years. And since the mom is 3 times older than her son, it will be 45 years. So now the question asks us the age of the mother after 10 years will be. So since she is 45 years at this point, then after 10 years she will be 55 years. So the answer choice 2 is the correct answer. In question number 20, we are given a series of set of alphabets and we are asked which is the term that comes at the end of this series. Now if we were to write down all the alphabets that are given in a vertical manner and try to find the difference between each alphabet and its corresponding alphabet in the next set, right? We see that the difference between A and B is 0 and the difference between B and D is 1. There is one alphabet between B and D, which is C. And similarly between D and G there are 2 alphabets. So logically the difference between G and the alphabets which should come after that would be 3 alphabets. So that would be K. Now among the answer choices there is only one answer choice which begins with K. Therefore we can select answer choice 4 and move on. However, if you want to be doubly sure, you can also solve the last set of alphabets, which is D and F and H and J, which means that there is a difference of one alphabet between each subsequent alphabet. So after J, there should be a difference of 1, which is K, and the alphabet which should come in the answer is L. Therefore, we know that the correct answer should start with K and end with L. Therefore, the answer choice is 4. In question number 21, we are given a set of relationships which says that C and D are sisters, A and B are brothers, E is the son of A and the brother of D, and B is related to C. Therefore, if we were to chart all these relationships in a graphical format, we'll see that we come up with a diagram that is given on the screen. So, B is actually C's father's brother, so which makes B C's uncle, and the correct answer here is option 3, which is uncle. In question number 22, we are told that Anil played 8 cricket matches and the average across all the 8 matches was 80, and after playing 4 more matches the mean of the runs of all the matches was found to be 70. Therefore, we are asked to find out the total runs made in the last 4 matches. So if we played 8 matches with an average of 80, then the total score for 8 matches would be 8 into 80, which would be 640. And if we played 12 matches with an average of 70, then the total score for 12 matches will be 12 into 70, which would be 840. Therefore, the total score for the last 4 matches would be the difference between the total score for the 12 matches and the initial 8 matches. So which would be 840 minus 640, that is equal to 200. Therefore, answer choice 3 is the correct answer. In question number 23, we are asked if 2 propositions are connected in such a way that they cannot both be false, although they may both be true, then what is the relationship called? Now this is a question that is based on the square of opposition, and the correct answer here is subcontrary, because propositions are subcontrary when it is impossible for both to be false. However, they both can be true. For example, if the first proposition says some birds can fly and the second proposition says some birds cannot fly, then if some birds can fly is false, then some birds cannot fly has to be true. But some birds can fly also means that some birds cannot fly, so which means that both can be true. In question number 24, we are asked which one of the following is not a characteristic of a deductive type of argument. Now you can pause the video here and read through the text that is given on the screen to understand a little bit more about what deductive arguments and inductive arguments are all about. This will be necessary because questions around deductive and inductive arguments are regularly appearing in the UGC NET paper 1. So it helps if you know the basics of these two types of arguments. Coming back to the question, let's evaluate all the statements individually. Statement 1 says the conclusion follows from the premise or premises necessarily. This is a valid characteristic, especially since we are saying that a deductive argument is in the form of a mathematical proof. Similarly, the second statement, which says the argument admits to a degree of complexity, is also true because when we are looking at again an example of a mathematical proof, it can be fairly complex. Therefore, deductive arguments can be quite complex. Therefore, this is also a valid characteristic. Statement 4 says an argument must be either valid or invalid, which is also a true statement because, as you can read in the text below, a deductive argument can be either of these. Therefore, this is also a valid characteristic. Now we are left with answer choice 3, which says that the argument provides us with knowledge about matters of fact. And this is not a valid characteristic of a deductive type of argument. Therefore, the answer choice here is option 3. In question number 25, we are asked to select which of the conditions indicates an invalid deductive argument. Now, if you go through the text that is given below, you'll see that the first statement in the second paragraph says that a deductive argument is said to be valid if the conclusion must be true if the premises are true. Therefore, if all the premises are true but the conclusion is false, then the argument is called an invalid deductive argument. Therefore, the answer choice 1 is the correct answer here. In question number 26, we are given 2 premises and 4 conclusions, and we are asked which of the conclusions can be drawn validly if we use either the premises singly or jointly. Now, this question can be answered more easily if we represent the 2 premises in the form of Venn diagrams. So the first Venn diagram shows that all bats are mammals. So the group bats completely is enclosed within the group mammals. And the second Venn diagram shows that birds are not bats. Now if we evaluate all the 4 conclusions, we see that only conclusions B and D can be validly drawn because the first one says bats are not birds. If the premise is that birds are not bats, then the converse, that bats are not birds, must also be true. And similarly, if we look at the conclusion D, which says some mammals are bats, because bats as a group is completely enclosed within the group of mammals, if bats are mammals, then some mammals must be bats. Therefore, the 2 conclusions that can be validly drawn are B and D, and the correct answer choice here is option 2. In question number 27, we are asked when a definition implies a proposal to use the definendum to mean what is meant by the definance, it is called which of the following? Now there are 5 different kinds of definitions. They are lexical, stipulative, precising, persuasive, and theoretical. You can pause the video here and take a quick look at the definitions of the various terms that are given on the screen, which include definendum, definance, and what does a stipulative definition indicate. Because the correct answer to this question is stipulative definition, which is option 2. In question number 28, we are asked an analogical argument is strengthened by which of the given factors. Now, an analogy is a comparison of 2 things to highlight their similarities in order to explain one of the things. The 2 objects or the 2 aspects being compared might be different, but an analogy is used to highlight how they are similar in some specific attributes. For example, when a car is compared to a cheetah, we are showing that both of them are similar in terms of speed. Both of them can run very fast or move very fast. Now, the factors through which an analogical argument is strengthened are given on the screen. So you can pause the video and read through the 5 different factors. If you focus on the last factor, that is reducing the strength of the conclusion or increasing the strength of the premises, is the opposite of the answer choice 4, which is given under the question. Which means that making the conclusion stronger when the premises remain unchanged will not strengthen the analogical argument, and that is the answer choice to be selected. So option 4 is the answer for question 28. The questions 29 to 31 are based on a pair of tables that is given in the question paper. Question number 29 asks us approximately what is the percentage of foreign students in the science faculty. Now the total number of students in the science faculty is given in the question itself, which is 1049, and we can calculate the total number of foreign students by adding up the numbers that are given in the second table. When we calculate the percentage, it approximately comes to 11%. So the answer choice 4 is the correct answer. In question number 30, we are asked approximately how many students belong to the engineering faculty. Now we know that the number of science students is 1049, which represents 23% of the total number of students in the college. Therefore, we have to calculate what is the strength of the engineering students from among the total. Therefore, if we use the logic that if 1049 is 23%, what would be 9%? So we just do the cross multiplication and we get the number, which is approximately 410 students. So the answer choice here is option 2.